I think you might be part.
Hello.
I think, Tom, you might be part of the problem.
Well, I'm certainly not part of the solution, Patrick.
Well, I don't have a problem. I have more of a question. So, am
Yeah.
I running through? I'll pop up Pat's page when you introduce him.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
If you want. I mean, BioCal put that link in there so it'll show up on second screen. So if you want to do that too, that's cool. I like it.
Yeah. Well, now it's green, so I assume that means it's
That
active.
means, yeah, that means it's active. And I don't know if it's W Scottus 1 or BioCal, but one of them will be putting the second screens in. So anyone who watches on diamondclub.tv, while we're doing the show live, usually someone is in the chat room putting links up in the second screen. You get to it at the bottom left, there's these little pop-outs, and second screen will show you the actual web page, the same web page that Roger's showing in the video, but you can see it in your browser and click on it and do all the things you'd normally do in a web page, which you can't do in the video. And to make that easier, BioCal wrote this awesome script where whoever can just put a little X mark and it triggers the second screen. So it should make it really super easy to do.
Yeah, I'll need to write myself
However-
a trigger warning on the top so I don't hit it by accident. Oh, sorry.
However,
Yeah, don't put
if
X in
you're-
the column D.
if you're you can do anything on that web page, even like start reading it, but don't listen to us instead.
Yes.
That's a much better choice.
Don't, period. Start of new sentence, listen to us instead. Not
I
don't
think that was
listen
clear
to
to
us.
everyone, Tom.
Period.
All right.
You're being very
I'm hiding.
confrontational today. Maybe that
Oh,
has
am
to do
I?
with I was going to say maybe that has to do with that business you had to take care of.
I had a
this
crappy
morning.
morning. Yeah. Yeah, maybe. Maybe.
Mhm.
It's a lovely way to start the day. Delicious. Also, I took everything where it was going and then didn't bring the paperwork. I had to go home and get the paperwork and go back again.
Well, as long as you didn't have to take your things with you.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's get going, shall we?
Ooh, it's time. Yes,
It's
let's.
time. Hooray. Here we go.
The Daily Tech News Show is brought to you by its global listener base, not outside organizations. To find out how you can contribute, go to dailytechnewsshow.com/support.
This is the Daily Tech News for Tuesday, May 2nd, 2017. I'm Tom Merritt. Joining me from the wilds of France, Patrick Beja, in the midst of election furor as they steamroll towards the final round. Is that accurately describing the mood there?
Imagine how it was back in your election period.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as
I'm so
crazy,
sorry.
but it's certainly
Okay,
kind
good.
of intense. So that's why I turned my attention to Google Plus's comment section for my posts, where spam bots have become so numerous that they're now arguing amongst each other.
No, serious. Like,
It's very depressing.
pretty hilarious, actually. Two spam bots. It was a response to the Rendezvous Tech posting on Google+.
Yes. Yeah.
In French, two spam bots talking to each other. They end up deciding to have dinner. Spoiler.
Well, one offered.
Or one
I'm
offered. I
very
guess the other one
eager
didn't
to find
accept.
out
You're
if
right.
The other
No, you're
one
right.
accepts. Yes.
We don't know. We're hanging on the edge of our seat. Will the bots eat dinner together? Where will they go? What will they eat? Well, we're going to talk about Microsoft's big announcement. They had its education announcement today, and there's a new Surface laptop for $1,000. There's a new version of Windows that many of you are going to compare to Windows RT called Windows 10S, but it does run on Intel chips. There's some mixed reality and things like that. We're going to go all over that in a little bit, but let's start with a few other tech things you should know. Intel published an advisory Monday afternoon identifying a vulnerability in its remote management feature. This is enterprise level stuff, vPro chips. Consumers don't have to worry about it. But if you are in the enterprise and you do run these management features, it could give attackers full control over computers running on a network that's vulnerable, a couple ports that need to be open. And Intel has issued a patch. So if you need to know more, head over to Intel.
And go patch things.
Patch
Patch
it up.
all the things. SiriusXM has acquired Automatic, the maker of the Automatic Pro and Automatic Lite connected car OBD2 port accessories.
So I always wondered what SiriusXM was going to do in the face of the eventual demise of satellite radio. This seems to be one of the first steps. Twitter announced it will not only partner with Bloomberg on a 24/7 live video news stream, but it's also going to stream daily and weekly programs from places like BuzzFeed, The Verge, Cheddar, that's the financial network, as well as show games from the WNBA, Major League Baseball, concerts from Live Nation, backstage at the award show. This is going to be big. By the end of this year, Twitter will be trying to be a video platform.
I'm not sure if I'm a fan of that idea, but I think at this point they have to try something, anything, try something.
I think there are a lot of ways it could go wrong, but if it doesn't, it could be genius. Now here are some more top stories. Facebook is launching instant games for Messenger to all users worldwide. Everybody's going to be able to get it in the next couple of weeks. The launch includes some of those features they announced at F8 last week, the rich gameplay stuff, turn-based games, leaderboards, tournaments, better-looking visuals. Words with Friends is kind of the flagship. It's one of the first to launch. And again, iOS and Android over the next few weeks. Depending on your region, there's going to be around 50 games available.
It's
in Messenger.
Video gaming is all. I'm a I was going to say a real gamer. That there is some kind of sentiment to that effect here, but certainly there's no doubt that gaming on mobile is enormous, and it's a major part of the revenue of any app store on mobile platforms. So it's not surprising that Facebook is trying to do that as well. And I think if anyone has the potential to make it work outside of the app stores period, it certainly is Facebook.
And they want to try to entice people to use Messenger more and live in Messenger. This could be a way to get people familiar with bots, and they may start using those bots for other things besides games.
Well, that's what the other successful gaming platforms have been. It's basically, things like Line and WeChat and things that include games on top of their existing Messenger service. So,
do you think tabletop gaming people look at folks doing the crossword puzzle with disdain?
I had the exact same thought when I was reading the headlines earlier. I figured there is some kind of similar analogy between like sports and like real sports and I don't know, some other kind of sports. I don't know, but there has to be something, because for a long time we thought that games were just games and that every gamer is just a gamer, but there's still a very clear distinction between people who game on consoles and PCs and people who game on mobile, even though some of the mobile gamers are incredibly active and genuinely interested in the games they play. I think the way I distinguish the things is, casual gaming between casual gaming and core or hardcore gaming. It's not so much about the people, it's about the situations and the usage. And some people have a lot more of the casual usage of games, but in the end, we're all people. We're all,
It's how important it is to your identity, to your life, that is the distinction, I think. Interesting.
But it's we could talk about this for a long time, but it's the only activity that defines who you are. Maybe sports people, but even there, but for like movies or music, you're not like a movie head or music head. Yes, it's someone
music
who
head. Definitely. They're definitely music head people.
But not everyone who likes music is labeled as, they like music. They're one of those people.
But video games are moving into that realm where you can say like, oh, you're that kind of gamer. Well, I don't think that's very good. The way music is, you like pop. You're not a serious music lover.
Oh, wow. Pop is the casual gaming of music. All right. Apple Insider notes that Google Maps, Amazon, and eBay have all withdrawn apps from the Apple Watch from the App Store. Apps for the Apple Watch, from the App Store, indicating how usage is unclear. Low usage. Oh my God, I can't read. Indicating low usage. It's unclear when the apps were removed. Google, however, told Apple Insider that Google Maps expects to support the Apple Watch again in the future.
Yeah, so in other words, they removed these apps and nobody noticed.
No one noticed.
Which eBay and Amazon, shopping on your wrist doesn't seem to be the easiest way to shop. So maybe I see that. Amazon, I would want for notifications of shipping or things like that. So I'm a little bit surprised. Maps, though, Google Maps, I'm like, really? No one noticed that disappeared? But I guess your Google Maps app keeps working. It's just that you can't go download Google Maps. So people who've already downloaded it wouldn't notice.
And it's the watch functionality is taken out of the app, so you still have the app on your phone. But and for all of the notifications, usually people get emails and stuff like that anyway, so they get the notification.
Yeah, they get the notification on their watch about the email.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So I don't really see this as a proof that the Apple Watch is succeeding or not succeeding. Either way, I think this is more about people and companies and figuring out what uses the device is good for and what uses it's maybe not incredibly it
is clear evidence that Apple Maps is superior to Google Maps. Actually, I had a hard time finishing that sentence. But no, I know Apple Maps is a lot better than it used to be. Dan Seifert.
Oh, right. Yes, than it used to be, not than Google Maps.
Right. Yeah. Dan Seifert at The Verge has written up a review of the Samsung DeX. If you remember, the DeX was announced along with the Galaxy S8. It is a Microsoft Continuum competitor. The technology behind it is the DeX is actually a dock that lets you use your phone like a computer. It's a $150 dock. So far, it only works with the Samsung Galaxy S8. It provides power, HDMI, Ethernet, and 2 regular USB ports. You can plug in a keyboard and mouse. Seifert used it as his primary desktop for a week and found that it has a wider assortment of apps available versus Microsoft Continuum, and the S8's processor can handle multiple Windows and browser tabs much better than the Windows phones that he had used. On the downside, you can't pull tabs apart and recombine them in the browser, so the browser functionality is more limited. Several apps were limited to phone size windows. They just do the doubling of size. They weren't really like in desktop mode. Facebook and Instagram were similar. Some apps like Twitter and Gmail would give you the large screens, but they didn't adapt. Well, I guess what he was saying was Facebook and Instagram didn't even double their size. They were limited to phone size screens, whereas Twitter and Gmail would double the size, but it still was the mobile interface. Anyway, Spotify apparently didn't open at all. Also doesn't remember window placement between docking, so you have to start from scratch and open up all your windows and put them in the right place each time, because you don't really have windows when you're on the phone view of a Galaxy S8. But all in all, Seifert says this is kind of a big step towards that dream of just having the one device and being able to put it in a dock and use it in whatever mode you need to.
Yeah, I think, things like the Windows placement not being consistent, remembered between sessions, that is something that is probably going to get fixed fairly soon, or that would be easy to fix, I'm sure. I'm not certain we're there yet, but this certainly looks like, we've crossed into, all right, maybe territory, right? From oh, hell no territory into, well, maybe. And in a few more iterations of this thing, it might be a serious contender for that usage. Whether or not, it will be a useful type of usage is still uncertain, because I'm not sure that the kind of uses that you need a desktop for are going to be achievable by the phones, but it's conceivable that it will. So
this makes me think that it finally is possible, because browser tabs being pulled apart, that's just a tweak to the browser software. Apps not being customized right, that's tweaked to the app. So at that point, it goes from the technology isn't there to this technology can work. The S8 has a powerful enough processor to do basic stuff. We're not talking about doing AutoCAD on this thing, but to replace a ultralight laptop, yeah, it's there. You just need the ecosystem to play along. That's a big question if you can get the ecosystem to play along or not, because you need a big enough user base to do that. What Samsung did was it spiked the punch and provided customization of its own apps, like the browser, to make it better. Obviously not perfect, but to make it better than what Microsoft had with Continuum. But it would be interesting to see if Continuum, if Microsoft ever comes out with a phone again, would leapfrog ahead.
Yeah, that is it gets a chuckle out of me. But it's too bad, because they could have a solution. And when we say, of course, it's not going to be able to do CAD and things like that, I think one of the power demanding uses that we always go to is video editing. And these kinds of devices are capable of doing video editing right now. So, of course, with a desktop real estate and multiple apps running at the same time, it might be a little bit more complicated, but we're really almost there again, even in the power consumption or power demands side of things. So I don't know. I think there is a way forward. The question is who, if anyone, will find it.
Yeah, agreed.
China's government is hiring 20,000 scholars and researchers to create an online encyclopedia in the country. Yang Muji, which I'm guessing is the way you read his name, chairman of the Book and Periodicals Distribution Association of China, will be the editor-in-chief of the encyclopedia, which hopes to create more than 300,000 entries of about 1,000 words each by 2018.
A lot of people are calling this China making their own Wikipedia because that's easier to say in a headline than China making their own online encyclopedia because it saves you characters. But it's not a Wikipedia. Wikipedia is an encyclopedia, so in that case it is. But it's not a user-contributed encyclopedia. This is China saying we're going to command a number of academics to create an encyclopedia.
Yeah, it's, I'm really not sure what I think about this, because of course it boils down to something that almost has nothing to do with technology, but kind of does at the same time. It's a government that is known for having certain views on certain things that are every government has certain views on certain things, but in this case it's a little bit more pronounced, and they're commissioning basically an encyclopedia, and it's going to be available to everyone everywhere. And I kind of see it as when anyone has a question about anything, you can point to the government official sponsored encyclopedia and say, well, here's the answer. And I don't know how, if this is how it's going to be used. I don't know how I feel about this, but.
Well, yes. I think a lot of people outside of China look at this and say, you should just let Wikipedia in China. But if you're in China's government, you say, no, you don't understand our culture. That's not how things work. And we need our own encyclopedia. In the end, having some resource, if it's good, is better than having no resource. So yeah, I'm on the side of why don't you just allow Wikipedia in? Have a Chinese language. There is a Chinese language version of Wikipedia. Yeah. Just allow that in.
But that's never going to happen. We all know
never say never, but yeah, it's right, extraordinarily unlikely to happen. So is it bad that China is doing this effort? No. Is it satisfactory to many people's levels of expectation? Also no.
I guess if you want to take the glass half full view at this, there are some topics that are contentious that are obviously going to be watched very closely by the government, but there are also a lot of topics that aren't contentious and that are going to be available for people as a resource for people to find out about. So it's not like the situation is suddenly going to change. Like, by virtue of having the official encyclopedia, some topics that were previously okay to discuss are then going to be shut down upon, right? The things that aren't okay now to begin with, well, they're still not going to be okay. So in that sense,
I don't think it changes anything in that respect.
Right, yeah.
YouTube launched a redesign that includes a more material design look. It honestly doesn't look that much different, but people who are design aficionados will definitely notice some tweaks to the main page and the channels. Like the channel banner now goes all the way across. It's wider. The three things that were at the top are now over in the hamburger menu. But the big change is in the code. YouTube has been rebuilt on top of Polymer, an open source JavaScript library that lets developers create web components that can then be reused. One example is a new dark theme that you can toggle on so that if you're watching YouTube in the dark, it's supposedly a little easier to use. You don't have this big white glare at you. It was easier to deploy in Polymer and could be easier to bring to other Polymer-based projects Google has, although Google hasn't announced whether it's bringing it to anything, even the mobile versions of YouTube yet.
I had a super hard time finding out whether or not I had the new design.
Me too. It took me a few moments to look and go, oh yeah, the three things that are up at the top usually are over on the left. Okay, I guess I have that one.
Basically. But I mean, it's true that when you look at it for enough, it's one of those things where it doesn't seem like a huge change at the time. But if you use it for a little bit and then go back to the old one, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that doesn't look as good. That being said, this announcement made me think of how static YouTube has been for a very long time. The product has not changed. I don't want to say at all, but very little. And I guess the entire energy of the company is focused on the issues they're having with ads and that side of things. But I wonder if this is not, me accusing YouTube of staying stagnant. It's me rather wondering if there would be some things that YouTube can do to improve the user experience over what has been the standard probably for the last 5 or 6 or 7 years. And maybe that, could be applied to the web in general, possibly. But I think in the case of YouTube, it's quite stark that it hasn't evolved that much.
All right, let's squeeze in the Apple earnings, which were just announced. Trick question here, Patrick. I'm going to tell you the straight-ahead earnings before I tell you the details. The company's net income rose to $11.03 billion, $2.10 a share in Q2. That's up from $10.52 billion, or $1.90 a share a year earlier, and beat analysts' expectations of $2.02. So you would think, right, that people are going to say, oh, Apple had a good earnings report, right?
Well, everything's going up. So
no.
I'm guessing?
Trick question.
Of course.
The company shipped 50.8 million iPhones last quarter. That was lower than the 52 million that Wall Street was expecting. That is all anybody's going to be talking about in their headlines for the next hour. And Apple says to expect sales between $43.5 and $45.5 billion in the next quarter, but Wall Street was hoping to hear between 45 and 46 billion. So in all the financial blogs, you'll hear about both the lack of iPhone shipments and the unexpectedly slightly lower projections for the next quarter. None of this is damaging to Apple. I don't think anybody's shocked that iPhone sales lagged a little because they haven't announced a new iPhone in the last quarter, and a lot of people are holding out for that rumored fancy 10-year anniversary edition that is supposedly coming in the fall.
If that doesn't come, then the share will nosedive like nobody's business. Yeah, I mean, this is, it's easy to make fun of, but if I take the more reasoned view here, when we say Wall Street and analysts thought this, and now there's something else, so they're reviewing, the shares went down and the things went. The thing is, they need to try it's the best effort to try and estimate things. Right. And we follow all of this incredibly closely, but maybe not everyone on Wall Street. They're looking at tons of different markets and industries, and they need to try and figure out how things are going to go. So they have analysts and experts predict things. And sometimes predictions are based on a lot of tangible things. And sometimes there's also elements of guesswork.
Well, in particular, in this particular case, what it is often we think they need to ship this many for us not to be worried. Like, based on all the conditions we know and the factors that we've included, it's got to be this much, or something else is wrong that we don't know about.
Right. And at some point you get a number where you're like, we estimate that by this number it's going to be okay. If it's higher, excellent. If it's lower, then it's not as good as we thought it was going to be. So naturally, if the number comes out a little bit under, well, it's not as good as you thought it was going to be. And you worked under the assumption that's what was going to happen. So then things go a little bit down. That's also, I think, the kind of reaction we get of, well, that's not so bad for Apple, is also in the case of Wall Street. Well, it's natural. So let's try and not make too much fun of things like that. Well, who am I kidding? We're going to make fun anyway.
Hey, folks, if you want to get all the tech headlines each day in about 5 minutes, subscribe to our other show, dailytechheadlines.com. All right, Microsoft announced a new 13.5-inch Surface laptop running its new Windows 10S operating system. The Windows Surface laptop goes on sale June 15th in 4 colors for $999. Has a 1080p touchscreen, USB, regular USB, not USB-C, USB port, display port, SD card slot, 4 gigabytes of RAM, 128 gigabytes solid-state storage. If you're wondering about Windows 10S, it's a stripped-down version of Windows designed to run on low-cost computers and targeted at the education market. Remember, this was an education announcement. More than 7 manufacturers will be making their own Windows 10S laptops. They'll be significantly cheaper than the Microsoft Surface laptop. In fact, the cheapest one will start at $189, and all Windows 10S laptops, even that $189 one, will come with a free version of Office and Minecraft Education Edition shipping this summer as well. Microsoft taking on Google Chromebook. They're trying to come up with a cloud-oriented version of Windows. It just uses the Windows App Store. It's easy to administer. And Chromebook has gone from 2% of the education market in 2012 to more than half of it in 2017. So Microsoft would like to claw a little bit of that back. But the Surface laptop is their shining example of what this can be. Yes, $189 is a good laptop for school on a small budget to get. But really what this is about is showing off what this Windows 10S can do. It's not Windows RT because it's not running on ARM. It's running on Intel, but it's got a lot of improvements such as battery life. They claim 14 and a half hours of battery life for the Surface laptop. If you're going to have kids running around in school, you want to make sure that those laptops are going to last a long time without having to be plugged in. It's got better security, Microsoft says, because it's more locked down. It's easier to configure. You can bring Win32 versions of the Office apps to the App Store, which Microsoft is doing. So you won't be you'll be able to do Win32 apps on here. They claim it's 15 seconds faster to sign in because of the fact that it's using the Windows App Store to manage the apps. It's manageable through Intune for Education. And if you run into a program that you need to use and you can't use because it's Win32 and it's not in the Microsoft App Store, you can spend $50, or if you're an educator, free, to upgrade to Windows 10 Pro in the Microsoft App Store. So it's a little bit wonky because then it runs Windows 10S in a side container next to it. But they're trying to have an answer for every question here, Patrick.
Wait, it runs Windows 10S in a container? You don't upgrade to full Windows 10?
So if you have Windows 10S on the laptop, you pay $50, unless you're an educator, which it's free, and you upgrade to Windows 10 Pro, and then it will keep your Windows 10S instance in a container so you don't lose that. And that might be a situation where you're like, well, I don't want the kids to use Windows 10 Pro, but I do need to have this other app on this laptop. So the kids will still use Windows 10S in the container, and I'll use Windows 10 Pro. Okay,
that seems a little bit too complicated for me, but that's not the main discussion to have here. I think this sounds good, but it sounds a lot better than it actually is, in the sense that in reality, the laptops that we're seeing, the Windows 10S models, already are basically just versions of full-featured laptops with Windows 10 that are a little bit cheaper because of the licensing of Windows 10S being, well, obviously cheaper. Of course, there is one that is less than $200. That's really great. I don't know if you can get a Windows 10 laptop, period, for that kind of money. Actually, I'm pretty sure you can't. But the other ones we see from Acer and HP are anywhere from $30 less for the Windows 10S version. And in that case, I'm not sure how impactful that is. Now, that being said,
yeah, go ahead.
That being said, I do think that it's basically what I'm getting at is that it's a little bit more about branding than it is about actually making a much cheaper product. Well, clearly it's just a license.
I don't think that's all it is, because Microsoft is pitching this to education. Now, having the Surface laptop muddies the message, because the Surface laptop is $1,000, and all of the videos about it are showing how awesome engineered it is and beautiful. And look at that fabric on the keyboard, and it's luscious and lovely, and it's comparable to a MacBook Pro. We're not saying it, but that's what we mean, which makes me think, oh, this is for consumers, right? Like this is what they're targeting. But this whole Windows 10s thing is appealing if you're running computers in an educational setting. It's not just about the cheapness. Yes, it's schools are on a budget. That's part of it. But it's also this simplified version of Windows that still gives you enough power that it's beneficial for the kids, but you don't have to worry about so many things that you have to do with a full version of Windows 10. And that's what Chrome OS has done so well. It has provided this simplified operating system where school administrators just say, oh, good, this is locked down enough. It's easy to configure, but it's locked down enough that the end users aren't going to be able to damage things by downloading a bunch of programs and getting viruses and stuff like that. We've limited the risk of that.
Mm. I guess you're right. I was thinking about it more from the side of the school goer who needed a laptop maybe for university or something like that, and who needed to get a computer on the cheap, than the administration side of things, with the school itself needing to buy a number of laptops. And in that case, you're right. It does make a lot more sense, because if you're going to start installing Windows 10, the full version, then it is a lot more headaches, and the problems that are solved by the Chromebook seem to be, at least in part, solved by Windows 10s. So yes, that does absolutely make sense. You're right.
And it does look weird when you're like, the HP ProBook X360 Education Edition is exactly the same as a regular HP ProBook X360, except it's $30 cheaper and it has Windows 10s. Otherwise, the specs are exactly the same, right? It is confusing, but that Windows 10s, if it does its job, should be appealing enough to educators that they say, oh, well, this is a nicer laptop than some of the Chromebooks I've seen. Also, using Office is a good skill for kids to have, and we can get it for free. There's also the Minecraft Education Edition, which that is a very popular tool for kids. And they also announced the Code Builder extension for Minecraft Education Edition, which introduces an agent that helps kids execute coding instructions. So it gets them interested in learning to code because they're playing Minecraft while they're doing it.
Yeah, and I think this is where we see the width of Microsoft's market / industry / things they need to worry about, because they sell to so many different kinds of customers and so many different types of uses that, of course, they brought it up themselves when they look at the Surface laptop. It's the shiny thing that everyone looks at, and we all compare it to Apple. But Apple kind of, taking huge quotes here, but kind of has a much easier job than Microsoft. They make a thing, people want the thing, they buy the thing. They work a little bit with, they do the Pro version, and they work a little bit with the enterprise customers, but just that they make the thing and people buy it. Microsoft has to work with companies, with customers, with administrations, with education. And in this case, it probably is something that they need to, a package they need to put together and announce. But really, the important part is going to be the Microsoft sales reps and, people who are in touch with the education entities that are going to go to them and say, hey, we have this thing, it's good for this and that reason, and it's much better than this other solution you might be drawn to at the moment, including the Chromebook, which, as you said, has sort of solidified a huge portion of the market there, but almost by default, because at least that's the way I look at it a little bit, because there wasn't any other thing.
Oh, no, there absolutely was. Apple was the leader in this market for the longest time, and they're still very active in it. Microsoft was selling a ton of low expensive models, but Apple was too expensive, Microsoft was too difficult, and so Google found a nice little niche here, and that's what Microsoft is reacting to. Because the other thing Microsoft wants to get out of this is, hey, once you've graduated and you're buying a computer for yourself, we want you to have been using the Windows interface, so you look at a Windows laptop and go, oh, that one looks familiar, I'll buy that one.
Of course, yeah, obviously that is a big part of it. But the reason I think the Chromebook got its toehold, or bigger than a toehold, in that part of the market is that is the administration part of it. Because yes, Apple was a huge player in the education and still is, but they're not doing anything to help the administration of the park of computers, or not as much as, a Chromebook.
They're doing some, but yeah, it's not as successfully. What Apple's doing is saying, get an iPad. Those are really easy to administer, and we've got some special administration tools that you can use for that. But you don't have multiple account logins on the iPad. You don't have nearly the control, like you say.
Right. So this is why I think the Chromebook was appealing to the education institutions, and that sort of came out of nowhere. And really, I honestly don't think there is competition for that aspect of what the Chromebook brings. And to an extent, Windows S does.
Well, Chromebook only has 51% of the market, so there must be some competition, which is what that other 49% is. But yeah.
No. What I'm saying is the ease of administration, right?
Yeah, that's what Microsoft is going after here.
Exactly. Sure. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks to everybody who participates in our subreddit. You can submit stories and vote on them at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. Matt Parsons is a high school teacher in Connecticut and just listened to our discussion yesterday about contacting your elected representative via bot. That was the Resistbot that Veronica and I talked about yesterday. Matt said, I initially thought this was a great thing for my high school students to know how to do and get involved in politics at a young age. As I thought more about this, I started getting worried about how accurate or reliable these messages are going to be for the representative. I live in an area where I agree with many of the beliefs and views of the elected officials, as do many other people throughout the country. What I would like to do is to change the minds of other elected officials in other parts of the country. What is stopping me from using Google Maps to find an address in the middle of the country, use a VPN, and enter that address into Resistbot so I can contact that representative? I could imagine that this could happen many times and skew the views of what those constituents actually believe. Again, thanks for a great show. I listen every day. I'm a proud Patreon. Also recommend this show to all my students interested in technology. Well, thank you, Matt. That's very kind. And a great question. What stops you from doing that? Nothing. But keep in mind that on the level of the elected representatives, they count the responses from people who are registered voters higher than people who just say they're from the location and send a note anonymously. So it's something to keep in mind, that this is just good practice for writing into your representative. If you want to have your feedback way more, you need to tell them your name and your address. And you may not want to do that, but if you do, then they can say, oh, yes, that is a registered voter in our district. We will count that more heavily. They do that because in all of the guides in contacting your representatives, they say, make sure to put your name and address here if you want your feedback to be taken seriously. Otherwise, they're going to assume you're from out of district. This bot would speed up the response level, so they might get flooded with out-of-district responses potentially, but you can still, in your message, put your name and address so they know, oh, this is from a registered voter.
So hopefully, yeah, that's very responsible that you would know whether or not that the complaint or the feedback comes from a registered voter. But what prevents you from actually writing down the name, like, let's say, John Smith, and chances are there is a registered voter, or maybe...
I mean, there's nothing stops you from writing a letter and doing the same thing.
Yes, but that makes it...
Yeah.
No, but I think you're right. I mean, the way the bot works seems to be responsible, and there are mitigation factors that you can take on the other side of things with the registered voters. So clearly.
Ethan Kane from Finally Warming Up Wasilla, Alaska writes, can we stop all the only 2 years of updates hate for a second and acknowledge that Google is at least giving us a guaranteed timeline? Most phones we buy these days are given an undetermined lifespan in regards to updates and OS refreshes. At least Google has the cojones to publicize their life cycle. And they're saying we can't guarantee. They might still update it after the 2 years. Yesterday, I made a muddle of the timeline. It's 18 months from the end of sale for security updates, 2 months from the beginning of sale for operating system updates, which is short. That they guarantee.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, Ethan Kane, I understand the sentiment, but especially remember that this is their flagship phone. The first one where they're saying like, you want the pure Android experience that we made ourselves, then you get this one. And 2 years feels like almost short of the bare minimum. So I think it's fair to be a little bit upset by that time frame. Yes, they're saying we're guaranteeing it, for 2 years. If they, how low would they need to go for you to be a little bit upset about this, Ethan? Would it 1 year?
Well, he's just saying let's give
low?
credit. Let's give credit to Google for at least telling us when a lot of other companies don't. They may support things for longer, but we don't have a guarantee of that. So at least they're being honest with us. I will give them that. Well, I still think they should support these as long as the underlying hardware can handle it. But as we talked about on Friday with Ayaz, the problem is Qualcomm. It's not necessarily Google.
Sure, it seems like a problem that isn't my problem. It's a problem that Google or someone should figure out, and I shouldn't be. I mean, ultimately, you're going to make your choice, and if you've already bought the phone and you're unhappy about this, kind of sucks. But it's a factor to take into consideration.
Well, Patrick Beja, I, like the many bots who respond to your Google Plus posts, think you're fantastic and happy to have you on the show. Where can folks find more of what you've got going on?
You know what? I have a website where I publish the shows I produce in English. That website is frenchspin.com. And if you go there, you'll find the Phileas Club, where we discuss world events. And we just recently recorded an episode where we talked about the crisis in North Korea with the point of view of someone who's specialized in China and lives in Vietnam. So these issues are very, very close to him, literally. And we also talked about the French election, of course, and we'll have more about this very soon. And then you also have Pixels, which is a show about gaming, which is a show for, dare I say it, real gamers who play on PCs and consoles. And yes, we talk about mobile as well, actually. So we are very inclusive.
I've been on Pixels, so you've had some people who aren't real gamers.
Fair enough. So all of this is at frenchspin.com.
Hey, folks, thanks to everybody who gives us a little value back for the value we give you on this show. That's how we work. Value for value. It's the model that Adam Curry coined and John C. Dvorak used at No Agenda, and we use it here as well. If you get value from the show, we just ask that you give a little value back, maybe as little as 5 cents a show at patreon.com/DTNS. Join the likes of John Lee, George Orr, Derek Edwards, and all the fine folks supporting us. We salute you all. Patreon.com/DTNS. Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. We're live Monday through Friday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 2030 UTC at alphageekradio.com and diamondclub.tv. We're at facebook.com/dailytechnewsshow, and our website is dailytechnewsshow.com. Back tomorrow with Scott Johnson. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
I was born ready.
Good show.
Excellent.
Very happy with that show. That was good stuff.
Cool. Well, if you're happy, I'm happy.
Yay. I like making you happy.
Oh, there are very few title suggestions today.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Magic, man, this thing is like playing the lotto. Sometimes it works, sometimes it does. Yeah, there aren't that many. Top is the Microsoft Windows 10 Mr. S Softy Edition. Oh. The Wiles of France. I think that might be from the pre-show conversation. 24-hour news canoe. But there already is a 24-hour news canoe thing. Like canoe.ca, which is a Canadian news website.
I don't even know what that... Oh, it's the Twitter thing, I guess.
Yeah. And then China Wiki. What do you mean I'm not a real gamer? S for short-sighted.
All the S for sucky, S for short-sighted. I don't think it's that bad. I actually think, and maybe we should have spent more time talking about that, but I think this is actually a pretty good implementation given the purpose of it.
I think part of it is that it's always weird for people to have something that's been cut down. For example, it's one thing to have iOS scaled up for a desktop and people or Android and people
Yeah, but
like,
this isn't for you to go buy and use at home.
oh no, I understand. If they gave it a different name, I don't know. I mean, part of it is just when you say Windows 10, there is a
Yeah, but they said at our education event, we have announced education laptops for education to use in schools for education, and it's called Windows 10S. I mean,
why do they call it Windows 10E for education?
I don't know. That's a good question.
That would have worked. Why? Yeah, what's the S for?
It's not for student, apparently. That's the other part that I find silly. Maybe it's for silly. Because it should be like student. I'd be like, oh, okay. But they're like, no. S is for simple and secure. And
Ooh,
they like
secure, maybe. But that
basically
would
wouldn't
mean
say.
that the other one is not secure.
I know.
It,
Right? Like, well, it's less secure.
It sounds
Like,
like
if
it's,
they call
it's like Windows 10. You know, they didn't call it Windows 9.
Yeah.
maybe just don't leave that. Just call it Windows Education Edition or
The
Windows
789.
No, Education Edition is too long. Windows Education Edition is no.
Windows 10E was brilliant. I think that's
Windows
totally
10,
what
I
it
don't
is.
know why.
Yeah.
Maybe there's still time. Microsoft.
Maybe. Oh wait, wasn't one of the Windows versions in Europe E?
EU.
No, there was ME.
Well,
Yeah, which
no,
was
but
really-
like the one with the
Oh,
browser
Windows-
choice.
No, there was N. I
Oh,
think
it
it
was
was N.
Okay.
Or maybe N was without Windows Media Player.
Mm-hmm.
That was Windows No. The N stood for no. Here's a title. Windows E was better.
Yeah,
But we didn't discuss it
none
too
of these
much.
titles are totally making me do cartwheels
Well,
or handstands.
you can't have Roger not doing cartwheels or
I can't do it anymore. I'm too fat, like too heavy. That's why only kids really do cartwheels and cheerleaders.
Windows 10 Sigh.
Yeah, put sign
That-
quotes so it's like Windows 10.
S and then IGH.
Yeah, but then it's kind of mean to Microsoft. and
Well, it
Windows.
could also be Microsoft saying sigh, like, you guys never understand what we're talking about. God. We wanted it for education.
Windows 10W wine.
Windows 10 CE. I like that one. That's Kruger in the chat room.
SE Special Edition. Oh wait, they already have one of those, didn't they?
No,
Yeah.
it's Apple with isn't the iPhone SE? I can't remember.
Well, I need a
Snappy title. So
Hey, we gave you a bunch of titles, Merit.
what about
okay?
Windows 10 takes you to
That election's got you fighting mad.
Windows 10 Cap
It's
and
hard,
Gown
man.
Edition.
I like Windows 10 S with the sigh.
Well, then go with your heart.
The
Again,
heart wants what
election
it
talk.
wants, Patrick. I know that my heart must go on.
Far wherever.
Wait, what are you singing?
He's singing the Titanic song.
Celine Dion.
Oh, I have never. I think I mentioned this. I've never watched that movie all the way through. Like I only catch it.
Oh, really?
Like
Yeah,
I
same
just
here.
catch it like on TV. So I'll watch like a little bit of the beginning, or I'll turn on to it, and it'll be in the middle, and I'll watch the end. So I basically know they get on a boat. They're on a boat, and the boat sinks.
Well, yes. That's,
I knew that before I
That's
saw
pretty
the
much
movie.
the whole movie, Roger.
That's the historical event, too.
Yeah,
How can you not have sseen Titanic?
because
It's the-
I'm not those.
I'm
no
not one of
pun
those
intended,
people.
but those types of movies don't float my boat.
W Scott one is like, spoilers. It sinks. Oh, man, you ruined the movie.
I think, 20 years is enough to make something a spoiler.
Well, also historical
Reason.
events. That cracks me up when people get mad. That was the low point for spoilers for me, is when people got mad when I said that the hostages got freed in Argo. And they're like, oh, thanks for ruining the movie. I'm like, This is a historical event. We all knew the hostages got freed. Like,
Not everyone knows history, Tom. Don't be so judgmental.
They need to do a Star Blazer version of Titanic.
Then it became spoiler. Like, let me tell you how Lincoln ends.
Well, did you know how Lincoln Vampire Slayer?
I don't know how that ends.
That's actually, I like that movie. A lot of people did.
I haven't seen that movie.
It's a popcorn movie, right? You just go and get some popcorn and sit.
While you watch people get axed? I don't know.
You watch vampires getting axed.
By Lincoln.
Axed out.
So do you want me to spoil Guardians of the Galaxy 2?
No, I don't. I'm so mad.
They survive at the end.
I'm going to see it Thursday, the earliest I can see it in the United States, in the city in which it was originated.
10 days after I have already
Seriously.
seen it.
You know, don't tell me anything because I'm not going to see it till the end of the year.
I thought you didn't care about spoilers, Tom. Oh, how the tables have turned.
No, this is the problem with having sophisticated and nuanced thoughts, Patrick, is everyone just oversimplifies them and tries to use them against you.
I don't understand what you're saying. We had a very lengthy conversation.
I think the spoiler thing is just taken too far. I don't think it's good to spoil all movies. That's never been my position.
That's what you say, but what I hear is that you don't care about spoilers.
Look, I have the best spoilers. My spoilers are better than anyone's. We're going to spoil things the best.
Bigly. I am going to buy him a thesaurus and mail it to the White House. If you're going to... So
you have fun with that.
I'm not sure that would work. I think you should just start printing pages of a thesaurus in which newspaper does he hate the most?
I don't know. It depends on the day.
The New York Times?
Whoever wrote something negative most recently.
Yeah. Okay, so do that.
He might like the Auto Trader then, because it's mostly just carless.
the Bond County Shopper.
Wait, is it Reader's Digest that gives you the power word or the?
I see that you very skillfully deflected my insightful conversation about
spoilers. Yeah,
that's fine.
Spoil.
I've learned from our current political climate how to constantly deflect.
By changing the subject numerous times.
Yeah, you know that spoilers is way too hot.
The problem with your accusation about spoilers against me, Patrick, is it's exactly word for word the same accusation Brian Brushwood made. Let's play the tape.
Wait, you still use tape?
Metaphorical tape.
Tape is like album.
Is it now?
You don't. Yeah, it's just a word that now doesn't mean literally tape. Album does not mean literally album either.
Does it though?
No.
But that's an album. Just mean a collection. It didn't really mean. I mean,
an album referred to a multi-paged collection of 78s. An album was a book that you collected things in.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So
it's not a book when it became a long playing record, but we still call it album because that's And we even call CDs albums, and we even call collections of MP3s albums.
Well, I call it my
it's a
photo
living language,
album.
And the words adapt.
I need to take this language's lunch money. It's alive. It has lunch money.
What?
I don't know.
You don't know.
I don't understand the lunch money thing. That one lost me.
That's fine.
You want to beat up on anything that's alive and take its lunch money?
What? No.
There is clearly some miscommunication happening.
Well. At least we had a perfectly spoiler-free conversation.
Spoiler-free.
Yeah, I restrained myself.
You can tell me, here's where I draw the line. I don't want to know the events that happen in the movie before I see it. And I don't want to know the ending or any twists. But you can tell me, some people consider this a spoiler. You could tell me, like, I liked it. I thought it was fun. I hated it. Thought it was boring. I both liked it and thought it was boring.
Okay, I will tell you one sentence of what I thought.
Okay.
It's too much of a comedy.
Spoiler. No, I'm just kidding.
Well,
Yeah, but yeah.
That's not a surprise, actually.
A lot of people told me, "Oh, but the first one was really funny too," and I agree. I think this one goes too far in.
You
that
think they
direction.
leaned too far into that?
Yeah, basically, there isn't one scene that is not
a comedic.
super funny, and they're yelling at each other, but
are
at
you
the
saying?
same time, we know
Well,
they
here's the-
love each other.
Here's
and
the
they're
other
making
question:
jokes.
Did you actually find it funny too, or were they trying to be funny and you thought they failed sometimes?
Less than the first one.
Mm-hmm.
For
You thought
me,
it was less funny.
Yeah, because it was like, they tried so hard that at some point it was almost a caricature of the first one. I thought it wasn't bad. I didn't dislike it, but yeah. Anyway, we can talk about this next Tuesday in a spoiler section of the after show when we will discuss our liking or disliking.
Oh yeah, I
Guardians of the Galaxy.
assume I'll be talking about it on Cord Killers. I'm guessing Brian will go see it because he has it in the movie draft.
I can't watch anything in the theater.
Why not?
Because he
Except
has a
the
kid.
kid.
Well, I'm sure you could. If when there's a will, where there's a will,
Wait,
there's
there's a will. I'm not dying, dude.
where there's a strong desire.
That was a
there's
dad
way.
joke. That
Yeah.
you get. That you're allowed because you're a dad.
He was doing dad jokes before he was a dad.
He
I was
and
just
they weren't allowed.
practicing.
Same as mine.
I was.
Mine are not
True,
allowed.
True.
Let's see.
Wrong.
What was
I'm just reading the chat room now. W Scott is one is in there. Wrong.
right? Yeah.
Have you seen? You've seen what was that movie with what's her name? Arrival. Is it Arrival the one with the?
With Amy.
I haven't
Adams.
seen that yet. I still want to see it.
You can
Oh,
rent that
well,
one.
I thought we were going to be able to have a spoilered conversation about Arrival.
I can't.
Really liked it, if that's okay to say.
Does it work well in
I
any
like the
language?
short story better.
Does it work well in any language? I don't know.
It's a
I saw it
joke.
in
It's
English.
It's
Oh, because it's a thing about language?
language and communication.
Right. Okay. Yes. Hey, W. Scotty's one. I'm never sure how to read your name.
W Scottus 1. is how I
W.
read it.
Scotty's one. I'm not fake news. You're fake news. Your name is fake news.
Your
There you
mom
go.
is fake news.
Your mom's fake.
That's the new your
We-
mother wears combat boots. Your mom reads fake news.
Oh, W. Scott is one. Now I'm intrigued.
He's had it since he was 1 year old.
Hey, we didn't say he's saying now my mom's a nice lady. We didn't say she wasn't. We're just saying
No,
she's
we just said
fake
she
news.
reads
Fake
fake
news.
news.
And I don't even know, like, your mother wears combat boots. What that specifically supposed to imply? Is that she's like a drill instructor, or
Well, it comes from a time when women were not supposed to work at all. So you can kind of do the math from there, I think.
Oh, like
The
your
idea
mom's...
that your mom even had a job would be insulting, and that she wore combat boots implies a whole other level of
so like the 1700s or something?
no, the 40s.
Yeah. Because a lot of women were working, although they were
No.
working.
I didn't say women didn't work. I said the perception was that women weren't supposed to work, and if they worked, then there was something wrong. I'm not saying that's right either. I'm just saying that was the perception.
A Whistler
description of reality
034
inconveniences
says it
me.
means she's
It
poor.
could mean she's poor. That's a good one. That's a good point.
I used to shop at
Well,
that
then
retail
why not say it? Your mom's poor.
Yeah,
that's
just
much
too
more clear.
blunt. That's it. That's just rude.
So in France, women didn't have the right to vote until after World War II.
Wow.
That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy.
Yeah, that's kind of odd.
All right, we are published. I am ready to close out. So thank you all for joining us. We will be back tomorrow with Scott Johnson. We will discuss other metaphors and spoiler etiquettes. Goodbye.